Hello everybody, my name's Elizabeth Harrin and I'm delighted to be here in the group today. I have a new setup for my video, so it would be really grateful if you're there online. Just let me know that you can see me okay and that you can hear me as well, so that would be really good. Before we dive into today's topic, which is all about blogging for business. So thank you for that person who's just joined. Right, we're going to be talking about blogging for business, and I'm a blogger myself. I normally fly under the radar when I'm talking about business blogging, but I'm looking, oh great, thanks Michelle. We are looking at what it's going to mean for you to have a blog for your business. So just to set expectations, this is not technical. We're not looking into any technical behind the scenes stuff about WordPress or anything like that. But if you do have technical questions, I've been using WordPress now for about 11 years. So I can answer questions about that. Just put them in the comments and I'll try and get to them either at the end or I'll drop back into the group later on and pick them up. WordPress is my platform of choice, so I might not be able to answer things about anything else, but I'll try, and I can probably point you in the direction of somebody else if you use something different. But today we're not talking about technology, we are talking more about the ideas and strategy about what it means to have a blog for your business. And I'm going to cover three things. We're looking at why I think you need a blog if you haven't got one already, or why you should be keeping yours up to date if you've already got one. How to decide what to write about, because I think that's a topic that people really struggle with. And how to make topics about your business really interesting, because haven't you been to so many, perhaps your competitors' websites, and you've had a look at the content that's on business blog sites, and you've just thought, oh, this is just press releases, this is a bit dull. And it can be quite hard to come up with ideas of things to do around your own business blog that really make your content shine. So we're going to be looking at that as well. So those are the three things that we're going to cover today. So first I thought I ought to define, when we're talking about blogging for business, what does that actually mean? So for me, blogging in a business context is around writing and producing content, writing your blog that is about your product or services. So there is more to your business than just a blog. Is basically what we're saying. So you might sell your professional services, you might teach something, you might have a physical store, you might own a restaurant, that kind of thing. So you have a business that goes beyond a website, and a blog in that context will support the business that you're running. I write a blog about project management, and I think this whole topic is really interesting and important to me, because I think that so much of the guidance out there for bloggers is really aimed at lifestyle bloggers, so people who write about parenting, recipes, things like that, which is totally fine, and there is a massive market for that kind of thing. But for those of us who write about topics that are aimed at business to business people, so maybe you're selling your services into companies, then a lot of that advice perhaps doesn't quite resonate. So that's where, that's where I'm starting from. So let's get on with our first topic, why your business needs a blog. So if you already have a blog for your business, why not drop a comment in the comments underneath this video and let us know the kind of things that you write about on your business blog. But I think it's really important for businesses to have a blog, and the basic rationale for that is purely because the internet is a fast-moving place. Google looks for fresh content and prioritises fresh content in the search results. So having a blog is a really simple way, it's a bit of effort, but it's a simple way to continue to make sure that your website stays fresh and that there is always new content available for Google and the other search engines to crawl and to look at and to bring back and say, yes, this website is constantly maintained, this website is frequently updated, therefore it's more relevant to the audience, because who wants to read an article from like 5 years ago if they could read something on a similar topic that is actually written in the last month. So there's definitely a relevancy reason to have a blog on your website, because it gives you the opportunity to put out content and to make sure that your blog stays really fresh. Having said that, it can feel like quite a commitment to have to blog on a regular basis so that you're producing all of this regular content. So you need to decide what frequency is really going to work for your business. For me, I used to blog 3 times a week up until this year. I now blog Mondays and Wednesdays. I write a blog and post that Mondays and Wednesdays. And I'm focusing more on more quality content, and I haven't seen a drop in page views. So obviously page views is important for us because that's one of the ways, our websites are one of the ways we drive traffic to our companies. So if you are creating content that brings people to you, they might not buy on the first instance, but they'll have some brand awareness, and they'll know that you're out there, and perhaps when they are ready to buy, then they will think of your company. So quality content is important, and like I say, if you're putting out good quality content, then you probably don't have to do it every day. There's no reason to be blogging with that degree of frequency unless you're a magazine or something. So there's a great podcast episode that really dives into the frequency of how often you should blog, and it's by Pete McPherson. He has a podcast called Do You Even Blog? And if you go to, I'll put the link in the comments later, and I can't do that while I'm broadcasting live because I don't have enough hands, but I'll share that. It's doyouevenblog.com, blog post schedule, Pete McPherson, and I just found it a really interesting, relevant resource that I thought I'd share with you today about how frequently you should be putting content out. Like I say, I do twice a week. I think most people in our to make a sweeping generalisation, our kind of business environment would probably benefit from doing once a week as a minimum. That's fine. So if you're not blogging already, hopefully I've convinced you that there is some value in doing it, and that you can create a content schedule which is manageable for you. So you're perhaps looking at something once a week. Okay, great. So now what are you going to write about? So our second topic for today, how do you decide what you're going to put on this blog? Or if you already have a blog, how you're going to refresh it and keep it going with loads of cool, relevant content that's going to bring people to your website. So if you're just joined and you're wondering what we're talking about blogging in a business context, and I'm Elizabeth Harrin, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how you can come up with some interesting topics that will make your blog really popular and help help position you. And really that's what we need to think about first, because there is no point, decide you're going to blog once a week and just churn out random articles. It really needs to serve your business purpose. So there's 3 things to consider when you are looking at your content calendar, so the kind of things you're going to create on your blog. First, you want the content strategy. I'll go into that in a second, don't worry, it's not as scary as it sounds. Then you'll need to think about your blog structure, and then you need to think about the topics. So, standing up. Okay, so content strategy. Now I know that sounds a bit grand, but really all it is what do you want to be known for? What is your blog doing as part of your wider marketing and business goals? So you might think, actually I want traffic, so my whole blog needs to be around, it needs to be search engine optimized, and all my blog posts needs to be really popular and shareable, and I'm going to do loads of stuff like 101 ideas for XXX, and those are the kind of lists that will really get shared. So you might want to blog for traffic, which is perfectly fine. You might want to blog for authority. So you're looking at positioning yourself as a thought leader in your niche, someone who's got fantastic ideas, and someone who is known as an expert. So you might want to blog for that level of authority to help boost your personal profile or your business profile. You could also be doing it for brand awareness. So you could be talking about your product or your customers. So you're raising the level of awareness in your community about the products that you've got. Or you could be blogging for leads, so people who are potential customers who might want to use your products and services. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about and you don't really know where to start, then I would suggest the best place to start is blogging for leads, because after all, we're all in business to get customers. So the best thing to do there would be to think about how you're going to be able to write about things that move people into a position where they might want to buy from you. And really, that's all about email, capturing people's emails. So you're creating content on your blog that would want to make people sign up to read more and to get onto your newsletter, because I'm sure you've heard this talk in online marketing circles. If you read lots of blogs about how to get your name out there and how to get more sales, then typically what we hear about is the money's in the list. So you might want to be blogging in a way that allows people to enter their email address on your website, and you can then send them emails, and hopefully one day they'll become a customer. Right, okay, so I'm not going to talk about lead magnets and that kind of how do you get people to put your emails into your blog content today, because that's probably a whole extra presentation. Maybe I'll come back and do that a different day. I'll ask Michelle. Anyway, so there's lots of different reasons you can blog for, and if you think a little bit about what kind of content you want to create and what you want your readers to do, that will really help narrow down the kind of topics that you want to talk about. Blog structure, our second point, will also help you work out what you're going to blog about, because it's an awful lot easier to think about what content to produce and what articles to write if you've already got some large buckets of categories, things that you can put content in. Now, Michelle just asked an excellent question there, which is around how long do I think blog posts should be? At the moment, the priority I know more about Google than I know about other search engines, because most of my traffic comes from Google, and I know that Google ranks longer articles more higher in the search engine results. So while if you've got a free SEO plugin like Yoast, which if you haven't got, highly recommend you do, it will recommend that you have at least 300 words in a blog article. You will get more rankings on Google if your articles are more like 1200 words. So personally, I try and write between 800 and 1200 words. I don't think people have a great attention span in my space to read anything that's much longer than that, but equally if you've got too few words, it's too short. Search engines will say, actually, this article can't possibly be in depth enough to add any value, because the whole job of a search engine is to give you the right answers. People come onto the internet to look for the answer to a question, and if you can explain it in 50 words, then great, but they might look to a search engine like you haven't really got enough detail there to really answer somebody's question. So I would say shoot for a minimum of 800, 1200 is good. Hopefully that answers the question. And you'll find the more that you write, the easier it will be to turn out 1,000 words. It does get easier. So if you're looking at 1,000 words and thinking, oh, I can't do 800 to 1,200 words, you'll find that with time it does come. And I've got a couple of tips about how you can actually do some writing and how you can create this, where all the words are going to come from in just a minute. But great question, thank you. So if you've got, go back to your blog structure, if you go to some big blogs, like the Busy Budgeteer, that's a blog about personal finance, or just any of the blogs that you read regularly, you'll see that there are various different categories at the top. So menu choices for people. So somebody like Chasing Foxes, which is a travel and lifestyle blog, they'll have categories around places or food or travel destinations. And if you are a personal trainer selling personal training services, you might have tips for this type of exercise, or exercise locations, or home exercise, or gym exercise, categories that you can put your content in. And so every month, or on a regular basis, you should be thinking, I've got these categories, now I need to write something that goes in that one, something that goes in that one, and something that goes in that one. So you've already got some ideas for inspiration. So that really helps you brainstorm. So for example, if you're a recruiter, you might want tips for candidates and tips for employers. And then you might want something else about industry trends for recruitment or something. So that really helps you just focus and think about the kind of content that would help your audience solve their problems and think of you in the way that you want them to think about you. You can just sit down and brainstorm all of that, but the freebie that I've got for you actually will help, because I've come up with 3 months worth of content ideas, and I will share the link in the blog. I'll share the link in the comments afterwards, unless Michelle can do it now, I don't know. I'll dig that out and make sure you've got that. The article content suggestions I've got for you, they're probably not going to work in every case, but I'm hoping of the content ideas that I've got, I think there's about 30 on the list, that you'll be able to find something that is relevant or that sparks an idea. So you're not starting from a blank piece of paper when you're trying to work out what you're going to write about on your blog. So while you're waiting for that freebie, I've got some other suggestions for how you're going to find these words and content to fill up your blog every week, or on the frequency that you decide. Facebook Live videos. If you're doing Facebook Live videos, and Jenny's live video on Facebook Live videos that she did in the group 2 weeks ago was a great example of this. This is the kind of content that you can also share on your blog. So you can download the video from Facebook, upload it to YouTube, or share it direct from Facebook onto your blog. There's also a transcription service called rev.com, rev.com, and you can go there, you can share the link to your video, and then within a couple of hours, I mean, they have turned around one of mine amazingly fast, they will transcribe it for you. And then that gives you, 5 minutes, 10 minutes worth of text that you can maybe do some edits, or you can just pop on your blog straight away as it stands, and that is an article. So you've got perhaps share the video, perhaps share the transcription, and that's 2 pieces of content you've got that takes the life of your Facebook Live video slightly longer. And you can do the same with other things. So if you are training, you can do the same with webinars. Perhaps there's elements of your webinar that you could take and share as a video. Perhaps there's elements of your webinar script that you could publish as a blog post. If you're doing coaching, some of the questions that come up in your coaching or mentoring conversations with your clients are bound to be things that other people are asking about as well. So perhaps that's a case study, or if you've got permission to share, you could obviously anonymise and make sure that your clients' confidentiality is protected, but there might be something there that you can use if you're transcribing coaching calls, for example. So to think about the kind of stuff that you're doing in your daily work anyway, and how you could turn that into something that then could go onto your blog. The other thing you can do to help fill up the time is guest posts. So guest posts are good. I publish quite a lot of guest posts on my blog, but I do find that they are as much work, not more work, but a fair amount of work, as if it was me writing the article myself, because I'm checking for editing and grammar, and people often just end the guest post and don't sum it up nicely. Then you've got to do pictures and an author bio and negotiate with them about the links they're going to include and all that kind of stuff. So it's important that they're not competitive to you, or if they are, there's a very good reason why you're working in partnership with them, and that the content is relevant and interesting and something that supports your brand and the things that you stand for, and it's not just an article for the sake of an article. So guest posts can be good, especially if you can get some regular content going with other people, but just use those under advisement, I think. Roundup posts are also really good, so you could do something like the top 5 articles in your area that you read this month. So they do really well on Pinterest, so it's great for social sharing, and you'll find that if you feature someone else's blog in a roundup post, then they're quite likely to share the article as well. So it's good for reach, and that's less words that you have to write, because you're writing, I read this. Obviously you can't copy and paste content from other people's blogs because of copyright issues, but you can explain what you learnt from that piece of content, and then maybe do 10 things that you've read this month that inspired you, or something like that. So there's lots and lots of things that you can think about. Thank you. There's lots of things that you can think about that actually, once you sit down and start digging into it, writing a blog post every week that supports your business goals is not that daunting. So now you've decided on your content strategy, you've got blog structure, you've brainstormed some topics. Now you've got to think, how can I make this interesting? Because, like I said at the beginning, what you really don't want to do is just be publishing press releases or publishing just stuff that's boring, because no one wants to read that. And I think that's one of the big risks of business blogging, is that the kind of stuff that we write is not potentially interesting. There's 2 very, very simple ways that you can make sure that everything you write is relevant to the people who are reading it and is fascinatingly interesting. And that is just be yourself. So the first point, personality. Write like you speak. I think that's probably the thing I've learned the most in all my years of writing, is to let yourself shine through on the paper. And you won't find that difficult, I promise you. This is not there's no massive, like creative writing exercises to find your voice. Just write like you speak to your clients. So if you work with corporate lawyers, your voice will be very different to if you work as a personal trainer, or you're a professional chef or something like that. So just think about how you speak to your clients and use that as the way that you write in your articles, and you'll find that your personality comes out, and it will just make any topic far more interesting. So you're not writing for a dry broadsheet newspaper or for Wikipedia or anything like that. You're just writing to a client. Secondly, and this is even more important, is it's not about you. And it took me a long time to learn this, and I started off with my blogging journey of writing articles that were really, it was my diary, my online diary. It was what it was like living and working in France, the kind of projects that I was running, and the things I'd learned. Interesting for me and my friends and family, but frankly didn't have great wide appeal. But over time I've got a whole lot better at narrowing down my focus and finding out that actually it's got nothing to do with what I want to write about and everything to do with what other people want to read. So you should be thinking about what can they take away from this, whether it's simply raising a smile on a busy day or whether it's actionable tips that you can offer them. So there's just think about what it is that they're going to be able to do or learn or consider as a result of reading your article. How are you going to serve them with the article that you're presenting? It's also quite a useful tip for search engines, because generally people come online to search for a problem. So they might be searching for things like, how do I do squats? I don't know. I would never personally search for that, but maybe people do. And if you're in the personal trainer space, then maybe that's something that you could do a how-to video on or something like that. So you've got to think about what you can give people through your blog content. However, for us business people, you can't give away the kitchen sink. You must make sure that if you're selling, especially knowledge-based work, if you're selling your consultancy skills, that you are keeping enough back to make sure that people do actually want to buy your product. So you're not blogging about, absolutely all your business secrets and everything that you would tell a client, because you obviously need to make money at the end of the day and have a business hat on. So a good rule of thumb for that is that you can blog about what, and you keep the how for your paid clients. Just, perhaps that rule of thumb will work for you. So it should be something that you're interested in as well, because if you find you're interested in it, your interest will come through in your writing, and you will find it a lot easier to be writing in an engaging way. Right, I feel like I'm coming to the end of my time. So I've just gone blah and told you loads of stuff about blogging for business, and I hope there's been some things in there that you are able to take away and implement in your organisations and your companies and share with your colleagues, and hopefully you will re-energise that blog that you've been thinking about doing, or create some fantastic new content for Q4 of this coming year to really get yourself started. And don't forget to get that freebie, and I promise I will share the link. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much for having me in the group. From a key takeaway perspective, so if you've scrolled to the end just to hear the summary, this is the summary part. You want to understand what you want people to do when they come to your blog. You want to create categories on your blog that reflect areas of your business that will then help you brainstorm article content. Then you want to brainstorm some headlines and topics that would fit into those categories, and you want to write down those ideas, write up your ideas in a way that you think the reader would find useful. So if you don't have a blog already, I hope I've inspired you to at least think about starting one for your business. I've been Elizabeth Harrin, and it's been fantastic to be here with you today, so thank you very much for having me in the group, and I hope you found that useful. Goodbye.